Kia ora, welcome back to our exceptional student series here at Academy X, where innovation stories come alive. I welcome you once, I welcome you twice, I welcome you 3 times. It is so great that you all keep coming back to see what we're talking and whom we're talking to next. We are overwhelmed by the talent and the trailblazing activities of our students and alumni, and today is no different. We have Roschelle Marshall with us today. Now, this is a true change maker whose work is shaping the future of Pasifika entrepreneurship and social innovation here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Rochelle's journey is grounded in her deep respect for her community, guided by Pacific values, and brought to life through bold research and her compassionate leadership. Her award-winning research, and that's an award we've given her, hello, stands as a foundational piece in the Pacifica business space, paving the way for future generations of researchers and entrepreneurs. Undertaking a project that few had dared to explore, she exemplifies resilience, integrity, and the courage to challenge the status quo. As a mentor and advocate, Roschelle embodies the principle of ACO, one of our core values here as well, embracing reciprocal learning to nurture the growth of others, and her ability to connect, share her personal journey, and inspire trust makes her not just a leader, but a catalyst for change. So I'm so glad you're here as we're about to explore some significant cultural wisdom and how that, plus transformative research and compassionate leadership, can reimagine the Pacific business landscape. Rochelle's story is more than inspiring. It's a call to action for us all because Roschelle, you are exceptional. Thank you for being here.
Wow. I think you're talking about somebody else.
Not yet.
Thank you so much
you're
for
a
the
pretty impressive lady.
I've never heard it put together like that before, though.
Oh.
Thank you. I'm honored, and I'm really honored to be here today.
I'm honored that you're here and that A, you should have more people talking to you like that because that wasn't hard to draft at all. And B, this is part of the community that we're bringing together is to go, hey, you're truly exceptional in a group of exceptional spaces, and it's part of the environment that we're trying to create for people here. So I'm just holding up the mirror. That's all I'm doing. Maybe putting a few words in.
It's a beautiful mirror. Thank you.
You're very kind, but we're really glad you're here. Like we like to start every one of these stories before we sort of get into all the amazing things that you've done to find out about the amazing person you are. Can you tell us your story? Tell us about who you are and why you are.
Mhm. Um, Thank you. So, kia ora tātou, everyone, and talofa lava. My name is Roschelle Marshall. I am currently streaming in from the foothills of the Waitakere Ranges in West Auckland in Tamaki Makaurau, which is a big part of who I am, actually, being a big Westie. My mother is Samoan. She came to Aotearoa when she was 16 to further her education, and my father is second generation Scottish-Irish. They met in the 70s and had me as a love child, and so I always consider myself to be a child of Pacific Aotearoa growing up in this amazing country. I kind of discovered my Pacific values during my study here at Academy X. And I didn't realize that they were hidden inside. They'd always been a part of me, but I think I discovered what they were, and they were probably obvious to others, but not to me. So I think that really prompted me to continue my study because it was very much a part of a self-discovery for me and who I was, and really cutting through those self-beliefs to self-limiting beliefs to really open up and discover who I am as a Pacific person. So I live in Tamaki with my husband, and I have two amazing tamariki aged 9 and 12. So yeah, nearly 9 and 12. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, it's so clear that your Pacifica values drive your work. So how have those values, what specific values and how have those shaped the way you approach, innovation, and the things that you care about in terms of social justice and the areas that you really like to spend your time thinking and activating within.
Mm. So I was fortunate enough to start my learning journey with the Mind Lab when it was offering the Leading Change for Good postgrad certification. And one of our very first sessions was whakawhanaungatanga. And we had this great facilitator, Anna, who was Samoan, she talked about her values. And I almost screamed at the camera going, "Oh, those are my values. I never knew that those Samoan values are my values until that very moment." And it was service. So very much tautoa and service to the community. And it's interesting, I've always been in the services industry, but never thought too much about how I was serving my community. And also respect. I'd always been very respectful of how things work and to seek to understand how things work at a much deeper level. And I think this is a trait for a lot of Pacific people, and Māori included, is that some people call it strategic, but it's actually that systemic view of things, being able to really helicopter up and see and look at the long term and put actions in place to really be able to dream and create that vision. So I think those are some of the values that were really highlighted to me as things that I've always had throughout my life, but then how that's driven where I work, who I work for, and the choices that I've made in my life really came to the fore during that journey.
Yeah. Well, help me. Let's talk about that journey. Um, from Whakawhanangatanga onwards, what other pivotal moments of your experience that led you to pursue the Master of Change and Organizational Resilience?
Mm,
But also, like during your study, how did that help you focus on Pasifika entrepreneurship?
mm. So I was really fortunate to work in an organisation called the Akina Foundation, who worked with a lot of social enterprises or impact enterprises. So it was my role to really navigate them through the system, understand where they are on their journey as a founder or entrepreneur, and be able to navigate systems in which they could access resources, access knowledge, access capital. And I was very fortunate to work with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs from across all different communities. But the one thing that was lacking for me was Pacific entrepreneurs. And I thought, well, where are they? And why aren't they coming to me for help? And then I just dug a little bit deeper around what the literature is, what the research is, where is capital flowing, what is going on in terms of Pacific business in Aotearoa, and just saw the low numbers. Less than 2% of business owners are from Pacific, even though there's a population of nearly 9% in Aotearoa. So I thought, where is the flow of money going? And there wasn't much investment, and there actually wasn't that much research. So I was curious. I was curious as to why I was either in the wrong place in terms of not being able to serve our Pacific business owners, or I needed to find out more, and that's what really prompted me to kind of do my master's in this area. And of course, there was a selfish agenda in that. It's because I also wanted to really connect in personally around how I could serve this community better. I've got some skills, and I know that there is a role for me to play. And I think that that kind of joining of that personal motivation and that professional motivation is what really crystallized for me in making my decision on what I should study for MCOR.
And then apply out into the world, I assume.
Yes, yeah. So during my master's, I actually started my own organization. I decided I want to be working a lot closer with Pacific communities. I've got skills around social impact and social value, but also have a real passion for entrepreneurship. So being able to apply some of my research into the world has been amazing. I think I learned that there's a new term now called a pracademic. You can be
Okay.
a practitioner and an academic. And I thought, I love this. I love the combination of being able to do the research and apply the research, and then that application informs, more about how you do things.
Let's say that again. A pracademic. A
A
pracademic.
pracademic,
It's
practitioner, academic. Yeah.
oh my God, that is that's gonna be the Oxford word of the year next year. We're gonna win it. Pracademic, half practitioner, half academic, all around badass.
Yeah.
There. So this is really great. We have a legitimate business badass in the house today of pracademic expertise. So I invite everyone. We're gonna be keeping an eye on questions. So if you want to get any insight from Roschelle, feel free to pop them through. And as we go through and we find one that's particularly juicy, we'll bring it into our corridor and move it forward. So this is your open call to participate in our pracademic motion as we move forward. So that's fabulous. I love that phrase. I'm going to get everybody a t-shirt. And I will do that. I will get everyone a t-shirt. So tell me how that shows up. I mean, I love this because we often think that research and theory is in this bucket and practice and reality is over here. And, the optimists among us think it's a Venn diagram where they maybe have a little bit of an overlap. But I think for most people, the idea of moving theory to practice is a journey or a, physical lifting as opposed to almost a co-design. And
Weaving, yeah.
yeah, and interweaving. There we go. Much better. How does that show up for you when you because when you're talking about making things real from, you know, being armed with this information and this knowledge and having supportive people to make a difference?
I think, and one thing that I was fascinated by is that you get recognition just for doing the research. As in, people go, wow, that's a really interesting research topic. Why did you do that? And so you explain why, and they have a very similar interest in that area. So they just recognize that there is commonality between what you want to study and what they want to know, what you've studied and what they want to know. So even just that recognition of being a researcher in this space has opened doors for me. So I was really fortunate to be nominated as part of a Pacific Strategic Reference Group for a Workforce Development Council, which really works on helping a Pacific workforce thrive in Aotearoa in the services sector. And even though I've had a long career in the services sector, it was the research that was highlighted to the team there that helped me invite me into that circle, because I'd never seen research like that before. So I thought, oh, that's fascinating how that just opened the door for an invitation to work alongside 14 other Pacific entrepreneurs. So I felt really honoured to be able to share some of my research with the team there. And another way, I've been really fortunate to help design a program for impact entrepreneurs, so wider than just Pasifika, but also including Māori and founders from the rainbow or neurodiverse community. And being able to think about the whole system and the ecosystem that supports an entrepreneur really informed my program design. And the other really key thing, especially for what I discovered and for Pacific entrepreneurs, is that cultural support around success stories in entrepreneurship and role models, and not just one or two, but a collective, and knowing that there are role models that we can be who we see. So in that program design, it was actually using a tuakana or kaitiaki group of entrepreneurs and founders who'd been there already and could share their lived experiences, which is also very important to actually inform the program to cater for our diverse entrepreneurs. So being able to know that there is some frameworks and some theory that sits behind some of that programmatic design and evaluation, that's how it kind of shows up. And I'm very fortunate that I've had the opportunities to actually apply the research.
So, what would have been some of the key points of your research that you brought in to that space that emerged out from your time here with us at Academy?
Mm. So my research was an ecosystem. It was how do we strengthen the Pacific business ecosystem to enable the next generation of entrepreneurs? So looking at an ecosystem, I think I think when you think about it's like, it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same thing for an entrepreneur. It takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. So you can't just have only entrepreneurs in the circle of a program. You need investors. If they're looking for investment, then you need investors on that journey too. You also need to bring lived experiences into that because that's really important. And you also need to bring the tuakana in terms of the role modeling. So just some of those entrepreneurial ecosystem pillars are the things that I brought into that program.
And do you think that this framework starts to really tackle some of the biggest barriers that Pacifica business owners experience in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and helps them sort of overcome it to not only create more of a movement but bring others along with them? Or was it?
Oh,
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm
maybe
guessing.
on a tiny, tiny scale. Uh, I think the other part of what I realized in my research is it's all very good to learn all the skills, but if you've got no money
Right.
to, enable some of your learning, then that's kind of a mismatch. So you kind of got all this knowledge and skills that you've got, but then how can I access some capital or some funding to actually realize that? So I think that was another part of the program design is actually weaving those two things together. I mean, I was lucky to go to an international conference last year who demonstrated that in the area of social enterprise, that capability building in the capital, they sit side by side all the time. And yeah, I hadn't really seen much of that happening for our community entrepreneurs. So that was something that I've kind of advocated for as well. And, it might happen on a teeny tiny scale, but I'm hoping that the program will deliver some really clear long-term results that can be a case study for how others can do this.
I feel like it's also the sort of unrecognized part of how entrepreneurial businesses and startups have changed pre and post COVID, right? We sort of startups were all about growth. And so raising capital and getting access to capital and the bum fight for that and the incredible bias that has come through all those studies just in terms of gender as well as color as well as culture. And then as there was almost like an overnight shift where all of a sudden startups had to present a revenue path. And, how is that investment getting recouped and bringing it through the game and process out of that? And oddly enough, the ones that were systematically unfunded during growth phases became top runners, evidence top runners in their revenue raising phases. How are you looking at how that entire life cycle for the Pacifica entrepreneur grows out? So as you connect people to capital, you're seeing the successes come out the other end, or are we at the middle of that journey or the beginning? I'd love to hear
So
format.
yeah, so my focus was very much on young, the next generation of entrepreneurs, and it's kind of that stepping stone between, okay, so after high school, if
Mm.
you've got this idea, if you've even got a side hustle, so I was seeing so many young people doing amazing things with the likes of Young Enterprise Scheme at high school, and then nothing. So I guess my lever of change I saw is, okay, how do we wrap around them within the community, a place where they work, play, go to school with their whānau ainga, and still have that place of safety to keep experimenting and playing with some of those business ideas. And one of the things that I excluded from my research was universities as a catalyst, whereas universities have great entrepreneurial ecosystems, but how do we do that within the community? So that was kind of that's my lever of change that I focused on. I haven't gone through the whole life cycle. Maybe I should do a PhD or a doctorate on
Oh my goodness, you
that.
told me there was a place that was soon going to be offering these things that might be aligned with your needs.
Yeah, because it literally felt like I only could do this one small lever of change within the system. But even at that level, you have to have the right players within it to support an entrepreneur, even in the community, who can create those pathways to the bigger, wider business ecosystem.
So when you look at the place that you're playing, what keeps you going? What signs are you seeing that fill you with joy and hope and optimism?
It's the entrepreneurs themselves and their ideas. Like, when you meet an entrepreneur or a founder, and they tell you about their idea, and they tell you about the opportunity that they've seen and their solution, you just can't help but go, wow, you're smart. Like, you just get so inspired by the way that they're thinking, and not just an idea, but the fact that this has been an issue or a problem that they had that has just motivated them to act and get started and get moving on this. And I think lots of people say you've got to be so in love with your problem, or your opportunity, if you want a more strengths-based language, that drives that motivation. And I think being able to enable people to live that out and to execute on that aspiration or that dream is what keeps me going.
It's pretty cool. Falling in love with problems is it's quite the discipline growth. I mean, that takes a muscle that you've got to exercise all the time. What problem are you still in love with right now?
That there's just not enough Pasifika business owners in Aotearoa. And I think it's a really big lever for change in terms of having prosperous Pacific communities within Aotearoa, and how that can also translate to Pacific nations as well. So yeah.
What piece of advice would you give to someone, wanting to become a Pacifica business owner? What would be the thing that you'd tell them right now?
I guess make sure that you fall in love with the problem, and really understand who your customer is. And one of the things that I have seen is just getting what I call the and I borrow this from Tu Wahine, is the $100 business plan. Get a plan on a page and spend $100 to get started, and just start testing and iterating. But I mean, that comes with understanding who your customer is and making sure that there is value in your solution to your customer. So, and eventually you're going to need support. It takes a village. And yeah, find like-minded people who can support you on this journey.
I love this $100 business plan. Say it again and tell me more about it.
Oh, so there's a tool that we use that the Akina Foundation created. It was called the Social Lean Canvas, and it's basically the plan on a page. So you map that out and sketch that out as a business plan, and you go and validate it, right? So you go and ask stakeholders, is this valuable, especially your customers? But I think the one thing is you can get started with what can you get started on with $100 investment? So I think people think really, 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 really big. But some of the best ideas started at a market, your local market, the night market. Test it out with your customers, get feedback, iterate, develop on that idea, what's working, what's not, and then just continue. And I think that is how you're going to get the momentum. And I think that's those small decisions that you start making in the early days that actually starts to build that fire within you to just keep going.
It feels like the most pracademic activity. There's like, take $100, go get some feedback and research. Like, make sure the thing that you've got resonates with someone else.
Yeah, maybe it is a really pracademic approach.
It's super pracademic. It's the Mary Poppins in me that's very excited by this. So tell me, if you could look ahead, say 10 years, what would success look like for the social enterprise and impact-led business community in New Zealand? Predict us the future.
I think the impact economy is at a tipping point. When I think about the movement that's coming from the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, they've just had a massive conference. The work that that B Corp are doing for purpose-led businesses. When I think about Indigenous business, the amount of Māori organisations, I just think make room for a lot more of them, because I think the impact economy is at a tipping point where there's going to be a bigger movement around, yeah, purposeful business.
So with that in mind, when you think about the role of collaboration, so between communities, industries, and government, the fact that there's these movements moving forward. So how do we get more active in terms of collaborating when we're creating a thriving ecosystem over the next in that future?
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation, and one that I've been having with my trustees for Co-Aotearoa, more in the climate space.
Okay.
And one of our strategic pillars is actually bringing together diverse communities. And someone said, what do we mean by diverse? And apart from each of the slivers of the economy, whether it's community, not-for-profits, small businesses, large businesses, local government, central government. So I think there's that in terms of the diversity and the power that each has. I think that is one element of bringing together diverse communities, as well as the communities who are typically underrepresented on the issue that you're trying to face. So, Pacific communities are not typically, center of climate change discussions. So I think creating the conditions for that to happen is really important, and how we do that. And so is that a process of co-design? Maybe it's a process of just understanding who's there doing what, because the last thing we want is duplication. And I think if each person or each organization or each sector understood more about what other communities are doing, there might be just a better understanding of what's going on, and therefore those connections to collaborate around some of those key issues.
Absolutely. It's almost impossible to collaborate with something that you have no understanding about, no curiosity in learning more for.
Yeah.
Building that out is.
Yeah. So that demonstration of a growth mindset is really important, I think, as a first step, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up climate change, because we haven't even really touched on the fact that you're a trained climate reality leader. I don't even know where to start. What is that? What it's like, I feel like this is part of like, yeah, like, am I gonna see you on Netflix?
No, gosh, no. To be honest, the reason I'm so proud of this is because it was actually a really pivotal moment for me. So Climate Reality is actually the training organization, which is headed up by Al Gore.
Oh my gosh, now I'm embarrassed.
Don't be embarrassed. And so he does trainings all around the world for people who want to really understand global warming and how to communicate to get more people around the issue of climate change. So when I was working at a corporate, because I was working in a corporate sustainability role, and because I'd come from an impact, social impact, so very much a people perspective into sustainability, I didn't have that environmental background that a lot of other sustainability practitioners brought. So I felt like I had to go through some kind of training for my own self to feel confident. And that climate reality training was spectacular. So in terms of bringing it back to basics, understanding, bringing in a whole bunch of people who are providing solutions, giving you tools and resources to help you advocate your local MP, be able to do presentations for your community. It was just a really fantastic platform for me to feel confident in talking about climate change and taking action on it too.
That's epic. it feels like the combination of different worlds coming together here, which is spectacular. And so when you think about, what role do you think social enterprises then play in advancing climate solutions
Mm.
in the path they bring, part they bring?
Yeah, so many. So I think the thing that I'm really passionate about is making sure that people and planet solution is nested together for a lot of social enterprises. A lot of people come with the impact in mind around what they want to do for business, and some are very environmental and some are very social. And I think they're not separate, they go hand in hand. So it's just being able to influence how that can be closer together if something's missing in that. But social enterprises, there's so many great social enterprises or impact enterprises that support climate. And like a really great example is one social enterprise that I worked with. They have a nursery for intellectually disabled adults. So that nursery, and they teach them, horticultural skills. They teach them how to compost. They teach them how to, basically the circle of life with food. And being able to then for them be able to put that into practice, and it's also purposeful activity, and it provides some socialization for intellectually disabled. You can see the how those two things are nested together in terms of a great place for intellectually disabled adults to go to socialize and learn new skills, but then knowing that those skills are going to support their home life and independence and support climate.
Oh, that's super cool. What a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah,
Um,
so you can see why I get so inspired when you
I
hear about
know,
these ideas and you're like, so smart. Like, you guys are amazing.
oh, super amazing. And yeah, I've all sorts of FOMO happening in this, and unfortunately we've hit the end of our time, and any questions that we've gathered up, I'm afraid we've run out, because what I really would love to sort of finish on before we kind of close this down is, you know, so much of this has sort of emerged, and I loved the line that you said is, I wanted to learn more so that I had the confidence um, to do the next thing, to do this thing. And confidence is such a term for students who are coming to join with us right now, is they've got all the bits, they've got everything, just the confidence to pull it all together and move forward into that new space. Um, that's what I've taken from your conversation. But what I would love to hear from you is, what would you tell someone who's considering studying with us at Academy X, perhaps
Mm.
within the Masters of Change and Organizational Resilience space?
Mm. I would definitely do something that's personal to you. So I would project out 5 years and go and think about whether this is still going to matter to you.
Mm.
And because I believe that there is a great marriage between the authentic value that you can bring to your masters and how you connect that to the world. So that's why I think it needs to be personal. And you have to dig deep at times to get through it. So when it's something that you really want to know, you do it.
Yeah, that's some good advice. Roschelle, thank you for sharing your journey and your vision of the future. Honestly, the insights you have into the power of Pacific values, research, pracademic or otherwise, and your commitment to systematic change. My goodness, it's been truly inspiring and full of just sheer possibility. You've reminded me of the importance of leading with purpose, and how we can actually, collaborate together for impact. And as you said, you have to turn your passion into action. Like if you don't have it, it's a long time coming. I'm really excited to see how your work continues to shape the future of Pacific entrepreneurship and impact-led businesses here in Aotearoa. And it just proves to all of us that, Roschelle, you're exceptional. I want to say thanks. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, oh, thank you. Team, we've got one more for the year. I know we're as I said, we're running so fast towards the Christmas tree. I'm afraid of a, pine impact, but we're on our way. We've got Dr. Reza Jarrell with us next week, who is going to lead us through how he's taken his Masters of Technological Futures and used AI to improve health outcomes across all of the communities across Aotearoa, New Zealand, and even how he's bringing some of that research over to Stanford University. So I hope to see you all next week for our last of the 2024 series, our Exceptional Student Series, where innovation stories come alive. Ngā mihi nui, and thank you.